You know, the United States has allowed too often some of its largest multinationals control not only the economy, but the politics, the social structure, the military, everything, land policy of some of these third world countries. That's one of the reasons we're in the problem we're in Central America. Some of the reasons we've had problems around the world.
In the Philippines, the army patrols the countryside to crush rebellious farmers. It is a rebellion caused in part by the bitterness of farmers who have lost their land to multinational corporations. Del Monte, a U.S. agribusiness, is expanding its pineapple production onto land once cultivated by small farmers like this man.
Why should I not be angry? Especially for me, who was helping my mother here when Del Monte took away our land. Just because they are rich and they are enjoying their wealth, they still take our land away from us. Anyone would be outraged if their land was taken away like this.
The Philippine government makes money by acquiring peasant farmland and leasing it to foreign agribusiness. When peasants resist, the government resorts to extreme measures.
I sold my land because they asked me to, and I really had no choice. If I didn't sell it, they would keep on coming back to me until I finally gave in and sold out to the company. Now, if a farmer won't sell, they get armed men to try to frighten him off. The farmers left because of fear, because if they would not sell their land, their lives would be taken. They would be killed.
When any kind of intensive agriculture program is undertaken, there will be some displacement and some movement of people, but the trade-offs, it would seem, in every place that they have occurred that we're familiar with, are to the side of the plus.
The movement of hundreds of millions of peasant families from their farms to the enormous urban centers of the third world is the largest mass migration of people in all history.
I have always been a farmer. My crops were coffee, coconuts, and cocoa. Now that the company has taken over my land, I am not able to continue planting because the company is going to use it. Since there is really nothing more I can do there, I came here to live in the city. I have no job. My children are really hungry. My only wish is that they can eat at least one meal a day.
3 out of 4 Philippine children under age 5 are malnourished. Yet over half the food grown in the Philippines is exported.
God created the land for all. For all, we read in the Bible. When a man is working the land during years to put this man for the surprises of cities, it is a great sin against God and against the human creatures.
Millions of peasants whose land has been taken over by agribusiness end up in a desperate struggle against hunger. Children are often the first victims of a society where a higher priority is placed on exporting food than on feeding local people first.
This child's condition is critical. He has third-degree malnutrition. It represents a degree that is very critical.
The child died a few days later.
I have the firm conviction that if we don't modify the economic policy of our country in a way to improve things, to give more attention to the internal necessities of the people here, then we will bring our country to an even bigger internal crisis.
What the American population needs is to understand that the gravity of the problems, take 2/3 of the population going hungry, is so great that transformations must be started. And the support for these transformations, the support of the American public, is extremely important.
At some point, we're going to have to realize that our foreign policy has to be based on a sense of social justice, but our allies are going to have to face that too.
I think the best thing that the United States could do is to withdraw from the third world agricultures and leave these countries to their own resources.
The abandoned wreckage of an American agribusiness called Bud Antle, which expanded into Senegal in 1972. Advanced irrigation technology was used to grow green beans for export to Europe. In 1976, when the operation was no longer profitable, they abandoned their estate and left Senegal to figure out what to do about it.
It is possible that in the beginning, this would present for the third world grave problems. But on the other side, it would be an extremely important challenge to organize their production, their processing, and their nutrition for themselves.
In the past few years, local farmers have taken over what had been the Bud Antle estate. They have formed a cooperative for growing and selling their crops. Some of what they grow is for their own consumption, some is for local markets.
You cannot continue to promote a development that has foreign roots. You have to base development on local forces. What I think is that you have to turn things over, start from local necessities like the developed countries have made, respond to the local necessities, and then organize your exports, organize your foreign relations according to the logic of your surplus and not to the logic of what is being needed in northern countries.
These farm laborers in northwest Mexico don't work for a foreign agribusiness. They own the land they work on. 5,000 landless peasants fought for and took over 50,000 acres of idle farmland here. Peasant leaders recognized that they could not go back to each family farming their own small plot of land. They saw that modern farm technology makes for efficient food production. So they worked their land as one large cooperative farm, each member owning a share of the business. They have started a small industry for building their own houses. They have their own schools and their own credit union.
La coalición de ejidos representa para la familia campesina.
For the peasant family, our coalition represents economic and social freedom, as opposed to their traditional oppression. Before, we were all-day laborers, and we were unable to have many things we deserved for the jobs we did on the farms owned by others. Now we have the land, and we receive what we are owed, the fruits of our labor.
The sooner we let these third world countries work out their own problems, the better it will be for these countries and even for the industrial countries. If we don't, I think our system will be totally incapable, if it is not already totally incapable, to resolve the problems, the catastrophic problems of hunger, unemployment and poverty.
In Columbus, Ohio, people at a food cooperative are alerting their community to the problems of hunger in the third world.
Our food cooperative imports products from the third world. Products like dried pineapple, dried banana chips. And as we have learned more about the food distributions in the world, we've learned that many of these products are brought into the United States from countries that experience significant malnutrition. We developed a strategy of taxing those items that we import from third world countries and using the revenues from that tax to educate ourselves and people in our communities about food and hunger issues.
Groups such as this Bread for the World chapter in Memphis, Tennessee, are lobbying members of Congress to change U.S. policy toward the developing world.
I'm a dietitian. I have a very deep concern for malnutrition, and I'm afraid that what is happening in the more developed nations is that we're promoting malnutrition in these third world countries.
We are expecting the people in America to express also their faith to really help us by putting pressure on these multinational corporations. I think that is one way of expressing also our faith, putting pressure on these multinational corporations.
We can make a difference in overcoming hunger in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. We can demand that U.S. government and business policies in the third world give priority to feeding local people first. We can support movements by peasants to own their own land and grow their own food. In these ways, our brothers and sisters in the third world will have enough to eat and have a future for themselves and their children.
My only wish is that my children can eat at least one meal a day.